Welcome back to Faithful Foundations podcast episode 15, where today we're going to be talking about forgiveness within your family.
So to talk about forgiveness, I want to start first with unforgiveness. And the reason is because unforgiveness will cause damage in your family. It will build walls in your family. It will build walls between your spouse and yourself. And so one thing, Jesus said, he said that it is impossible that the offense should come. In other words, the offense is going to come your way. Mm-hmm. But he never told us that we had to take the offense. And then one thing, that I always related to, I look at it in the fact that if we take an offense, what we've done is just drove a fence post, basically, into our life. And if we keep allowing those to be driven, eventually there's going to be a fence of offenses between you and your spouse. So you're divided. And you're trying to look over this fence to get on the same page, and you have this barrier between you that you've allowed of offense and unforgiveness to build a wall. And until you walk in forgiveness to tear those things down, you're not going to be on the same page. You're not going to be in unity, and that unforgiveness will build a separation where there should be unity.
Yeah, and like an offense could come as a look.
Mm-hmm. Body language,
something you say, maybe even just something you don't say and you're thinking to
or
yourself.
Don't do.
Yeah, or don't do. And you build it up so big within yourself. Like offense, when you choose to take it, it truly is, you're all within yourself and your feelings and your emotions in it.
Yep. And it's not a love walk.
Yeah.
And what it does, it really puts a barrier, a distance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a distance in your intimacy. It's a distance in your relationship. It'll create a distance in your family between you and your kids, not just your spouse, but between you and your kids. When you allow that to take place and that distance is there now you got to bring and come back to basically draw near back to where you were and overcome the distance.
Yeah, what the vision that just came to me when you were talking about that, like, yes, with the fence, but to me is like a binocular. Like you're looking through a binocular, like you are so far away because that offense came in. Yeah. Like you have to look through, you got to get closer to get over that.
Yeah, and you don't want the unforgiveness there to cause the offense because, I'd rather be close to you to look at you eye to eye, not having to look through binoculars to see you.
Or over a fence.
And what it does, when we don't release that hurt, that pain and everything, all that does is just, it really, in a sense, you think of bitterness, which it causes, unforgiveness does, a bitterness as a poisonous type weed that will go through your life, choking everything else out. Well, I think also, what it is, it erodes the trust that's been built. It erodes that intimacy that's been built, the foundation, and it comes and acts as a poison to dismantle those things that have been built.
Mm-hmm. What about within kids and between kids together?
Yeah.
And your kids.
Well, that's the thing too. That's one thing. We have Brenlin and Bristol being closer, in age. Well, all of our kids are like 3 years apart from the oldest to the second.
Not playing that way.
Nope. And so when you have that, though, the two oldest, they're always kind of getting at each other. And we're always talking about walking in love, walking in forgiveness, being in that, because we don't want our kids to have that and grow up with that. They're close at times, and then, siblings are going to get on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
This is going to happen. And when you live in close quarters, you're going to get on other people's nerves. But allowing that to then roll off your back and walking in forgiveness towards that.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that we do in those instances where we see, like, okay, the smallest thing that their sibling is doing to them or saying or just walking in the room and how they're walking in. When we see that they're getting so agitated and kind of in that area, we sit them down with one another side by side and have them look at each other and either compliment them on something they've seen them do recently or tell them something they love about each other. Sometimes we make them hold hands or get up and give each other a full embraced hug, because you can tell when that is starting to not full on bitterness, but like anything their sibling does is getting under their skin.
Well, and even with that, we make certain rules on what you say to them. Like,
oh yeah,
you can't. Well, you get up well. You know, when you wake up.
I like how you let the dogs out.
Yeah, it has to be something specific, like to them that it's not like
personal to them that
yes,
you admire about them or like.
Yeah, so
them.
it's intentional, not just. Well, I like the way that you wear that shirt. No, that's not going to work. And so you look at that, because what happens is if you allow the bitterness and everything, what you see is that when that bitterness or that unforgiveness starts to take root, then it comes out in their attitudes, their tone, their facial expressions, their body language, not only to the person that they have that, but then I see it start reflecting towards us.
Yeah.
Or if we would allow that, it would start reflecting in the way that we treat our kids.
Yeah.
And so that's why you cannot allow that unforgiveness to be there and take root.
Yeah.
It also invites strife. So you think about this. Bitterness is like a weed. It's like, it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. Unforgiveness. And you think it's going to hurt the other person, but really it's just hurting you. And so what happens is it breeds strife. It breeds confusion. It breeds conflict in your family, in your marriage, in your relationship, in dividing that intimacy that we talked about, that wall. And it breeds those things in your life. And you may not even realize it. And all of a sudden you have this strife that's in the house that has now taken root, and you wonder why it's day after day after day of strife. Well, it's probably, if you trace it back, it's tied to a moment of an offense or an unforgiveness that has taken root.
Yeah. I like how it says on here that how the spouses begin to compete instead of compliment each other. Sometimes when listening to other people talk, or, spouses, or about parenting, and one of them is like, I'm so tired, I did this. Well, then someone else has to pipe in. Well, I did this, so I'm tired. And it's like they're in competition of who is more tired and why they have to say, well, I'm more tired and this is why. You're not working together. You're competing and trying to validate why you're the more tired one.
Yep. You know what Proverbs 17:14 says? Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before dispute breaks out. So in other words, just drop it. Like that's a thing. Like, why even get into it? And that's what we're trying to teach our kids. Like, you guys are arguing or whatever over a thing that you won't even remember in a week. Like, it doesn't even matter in a week, and you guys are at each other's throat over it. Like, drop it.
You're really picking the harder way to do things.
Yeah, and here's the thing with it too, though. If we allow it in our lives, as a spouse, as a mother and a father, what it does is then it builds unhealthy patterns and teaches our kids unhealthy way of living or treating others. They see us, if they would see us holding that bitterness towards one another or that offense, what's that going to teach them? It's going to teach them, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done, how I'm supposed to treat my wife. I'm going to hold this over their head until they come to me and apologize, or until they see it my way.
Yeah, and that's just such like a, I don't know, like gross, icky feeling that you don't want your kids to like get used to feeling that way. Like you don't want it to be, or even or even your spouse, like that's just the way things are. Like it has to be like this. You don't want that to be so repetitive that they get used to that feeling.
Yeah. And then eventually what all that does is that you breed that in your house, the atmosphere, your kids are learning that, and then it really impacts your spiritual growth. You cannot grow with having unforgiveness in your life. It will disrupt your life. You will not grow spiritually. You will not grow emotionally. You will not learn how to effectively get past things such as offenses.
You'll harbor so much.
Yeah, and you will not. It is impossible to grow spiritually to the area that you want to grow. It can affect you in certain areas, so you may grow in some areas spiritually, but it will hinder you becoming the person that God created you to be, becoming the father that you need to be, becoming the husband that you should be, or the wife that you should be, the mother that you should be. It will really impact your life in that way by harboring unforgiveness. But now that we've talked about unforgiveness, let's talk about forgiveness in a marriage, and really where we want to get to, because this is the key point. Because what it does, when you start to forgive and you let go of those things, now you build that unity, you build that trust, you build that in your life and in your marriage, and you build that within your kids.
Yeah, you've set such a great example of that, and just the trustworthiness of, I mean, so quick to forgive, and also like so quick to take the blame, or to take it on yourself just to move past it.
Yeah, and really that started for me before we were ever married. Really, before we knew each other, but before we ever dated or anything with that, and we knew of each other before we really knew each other. It really started for me before that, when I got my hands on a Kenneth Hagin series on Love Always Wins. And so with that, I dug myself into the God kind of love, and walking in that in love, and that transformed my life, so that I've been able to do that in my family. I've been able to do that in our marriage. I've been able to do that with the kids, and then lead you. And when we first got married,
I have needed so much help in this area. I feel like I'm at a turning.
So I didn't have to.
I feel like I'm at such a turning point lately, though. Like, and there's not even really like one thing I can pinpoint and say like, growing up, this happened, or I had this, and this is why. But I do know like that I was surrounded by unforgiveness. Like it was never the love walk. Like it was never taking the higher road. Like I have had to like train myself up in this area so much, but I do feel like I've like hit a
yeah. And again, if people have been around us long enough, though, when we start talking about love and all that, we'll say, literally, from the time we got married, I loved the hell out of you.
Yeah.
In other words, there was things that were there that had to be uprooted, and the only thing that was being uprooted by was love and showing you Christ in me. And so allowing that to happen. But here's the thing with forgiveness, what it does, it restores. It restores the relationship, the communication. It brings healing where it doesn't look like it's possibly to even take place, and it restores intimacy. Forgiveness does that. By simply walking in forgiveness and choosing to forgive, it restores intimacy. It restores that trust. It restores that unity that should be there.
Matthew 6:14-15, it says it teaches that when we forgive, we make room for God's mercy to work in our lives.
Yeah, it teaches us that. And so you have to understand that unforgiveness, that love walk, forgiveness, that love walk, which forgiveness is attached to love, and you're going to act out of love to forgive, it really brings God's presence and blessings in your life. So if you're not walking in that, and you have that between your spouse, well, then your marriage isn't going to be blessed. It's not going to have God's presence in the middle of it.
Yeah. It models grace for your children.
They learn grace. They learn empathy. They learn mercy in that.
This makes me think of Brielle. She is the most empathetic person I feel like I've ever been in contact with. Like she hears one thing that either like maybe we're on a phone call and she just hears us say, like if we say the word hospital, or if we say like a word where she can sense that something is wrong. Like she wants to know all the details, what happened, when, why, are they okay, what now? Like,
can we pray for them?
Yeah,
She says
yeah.
a lot, yeah.
Can we pray for them? And then but she doesn't give up. Like then later on, she's back. Like, well, what happened to that? Like,
are they doing better?
Yeah. She is so empathetic. Like she has such a heart.
And here's the thing with our children too, is when you walk in forgiveness with your spouse and everything with that, or just towards others, they see it, how you treat others in that forgiveness versus unforgiveness. They will learn that just because something happens, an offense happens or anything like that, that I'm not going to end the relationship. In other words, I'm not going to turn tail and run. You can get through this, and how you get through it is through the love walk, which is walking in forgiveness. And so, really, there's a couple things that lead to divorce in Christian families. There can be untrustworthy because of financial things, and all the financials, having trust in that area and battling financially is a big leader. Obviously you have infidelity if it leads to that, of lust or different things. Mm-hmm. But another big one is really that unforgiveness and harboring that, because it builds such walls that it causes such a distance between the two, that it ends, and they end a relationship and run away from what couldn't be restored by simply walking in forgiveness because of holding on to bitterness and holding on to those things that really God tells us to let go of.
Yeah, like true forgiveness is that you don't even remember it anymore.
Yep. You turn and go the opposite way.
You don't, the next disagreement or argument that comes up, you don't open your phone book of this and this and this that happened when. No, if you truly forgive, it truly is just like a clean slate and a blank slate.
I've heard people say, and they get it wrong. Well, if you forgive, you do a 180 and go a 180 on it. No, a 180 is back at the same place.
Yeah.
You turn and walk away from it. You turn and act different. You turn and go the different way and respond to it differently than what you have in the past.
Yeah, and if Christ forgives us and remembers it no more, then why are we holding on to it and remembering it?
And the thing is, the reason why a lot of people, it keeps them from, a spouse, from walking in forgiveness and holding on to forgiveness is because to walk in forgiveness, obviously it takes love and the choice of love, but it's humble. It humbles you.
Yeah.
There's humility involved. And a lot of times people are not willing to to get down to get up. In other words, I'm not willing to lower myself to rise above it because it takes me, meaning I'm going to humble myself. I have to kill the pride.
Yeah.
There's some things, again, just to recap real quick before we get into the talking points.
Okay.
Unforgiveness will build walls and coldness, but forgiveness restores and brings that openness. It restores relationships.
Yeah. For the spiritual aspect of it, unforgiveness will block God's flow, and forgiveness invites his presence and his blessing.
Well, we know also that unforgiveness breeds bitterness.
Yeah.
And it will kill you. It will not kill the other person. It builds strife in the home. But the forgiveness builds that trust, that connection, and that intimacy.
Mm-hmm. For parenting, unforgiveness will teach your kids resentment and pride. But forgiveness will teach them mercy, humility, and love.
And I want to say this before you get to the points there, too, to talk about is that forgiveness and unforgiveness, it really can breed generational legacy. Mm-hmm. If your family, you can be the one that breaks this too, because there's no generational curse once you step into Christ. Those curses have been broken, but you can pick things back up that have been laid down or broken off of you and carry it from generation to generation if you're not careful. And one of those things is a generation, either a blessing or curses, in the sense of, I'm going to hold on to this unforgiveness because I've seen my parents do that and my grandparents do that, and it follows down because that's what you learn. But you can break that by choosing to walk in love and break that generational flow of unforgiveness and walk in forgiveness and love, which then brings generational blessings upon you, your children, your grandchildren, and your children's children. And you'll see the hand of God and favor be upon that.
Yeah, and I'll say too, with parenting, you bring this example up to me all the time, but forgiving yourself of how you were at your children's age, because sometimes it's almost like you have to tell me, our kids aren't you at that age, Jessica. Stop trying to bring in or look for things that you were doing at their age. They're not you at that age. And so that's so important too, if you really want to stop things from as your childhood or even your young adult lives, not to think so much on it that you're looking for that within your kids.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the talking points, the couple's talking point is, what is a tradition that you would love for us to start? And the family kids talking point, I get so excited for these, I know. What's one way you can show God's love to a friend at school?
Great. One tradition that you can start, forgiveness. Well, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for joining us for Faithful Foundations. We love it that you jump on and listen to these, and we hope that they're building you and strengthening your relationships.